So next in the Bitesized series, we're going to be talking about the Annihilation Barge from the Necron Codex. Now you can get it for $55 in the US or £32.50 in the UK. And within this box, you're going to of course get either the Annihilation Barge or alternatively, you can kit your model out as a Catacomb Command Barge. It comes in the same kit, and if you're able to magnetize it, even better. Now this Annihilation Barge is going to cost you 120 points, and it's going to be one of your heavy support selections. Now it is of course a vehicle, so it will contain the core keyword, so it's going to interact with a lot of different abilities within the codex. We'll get onto that in a moment. But as for the natural abilities that the Annihilation Barge has, first of all the quantum shielding ability, so it has that 5+ invulnerable save, and also you cannot wound it on less than a 4+. Really tanky, really resilient there, especially when this thing's actually got 8 wounds to begin with. But to pair alongside that quantum shielding, it's also got a toughness value of a 6. So even the small arms fire that's done in mass is still going to require quite a high roll when rolling to wound against this thing. Now I did in the intro mention that it's got the core keyword, which actually means it can oddly do ancient machineries, because that just requires you to have a core keyword within the datasheet. So make sure you're making use of the protocol of Sudden Storm with Directive 2 so that you can actually be shooting with this vehicle as well as doing that action. Now speaking of shooting, let's talk about the actual range attacks of the Annihilation Barge. Now the first part is a choice. You're either taking the Gauss Cannon, which is going to be 5 points extra, or you're taking the Tesla Cannon, which is free. Now the Gauss Cannon, 24-inch range, heavy 3, strength 6, -3 AP and D3 damage. So it can move and shoot because it's a vehicle of course, and it can also shoot into combat. However, it will be at a -1 to hit penalty because of course it's a heavy weapon. However, you do need to remember that Armor of Contempt is a thing at the moment, so it won't be a -2 AP, it will go down to -1 AP. Then you've got the other option, which is the Tesla Cannon, which I actually prefer the Tesla Cannon if I'm honest with you. It pairs quite nicely with the third weapon, which we're going to go over in a minute. But the Tesla Cannon is a longer range of 30-inch range. It's heavy 3 and strength 6 again, but this time it's got no AP and only 1 damage, but if you roll a hit, roll for 6, you get 2 additional hits. This option is much better when you're going up against a low armor save that doesn't require any AP whatsoever to damage them, and also in fact talking about the damage, you only need 1 damage against those kind of models. And as I already mentioned, it does pair quite nicely with the main weapon that this thing has, which is the Twin Tesla Destructor. And this has got a 36-inch range, heavy 10, strength 7, no AP, 1 damage, and again, exploding 6s there. Now when you're going up against, say, toughness 3 models, the Tesla Cannon, as well as the Twin Tesla Destructor shots, you may as well just put them all into one pile and roll them off, because they're all going to do the same. They're going to be wounded on a 2+, because yeah, strength 6 or 7 going up against toughness 3 only requires 2s to wound there. The main target for this thing is going up against a low armor save unit. Now if you were to use it in the Mephret Dynasty, of course you're going to get the 3-inch extra range and the extra AP on top of that at half range, but I personally like to use it in the Nihilak Dynasty or an objective secured dynasty like Eternal Conquerors, because it's quite a resilient model, 8 wounds, quantum shielding, 3+ armor save. You park this on an objective, you're going to pretty much hold it until it's been removed. That's the way I personally like to do it. Now as for some unit synergy, you can get the My Will Be Done from lots of different locations really. The Silent King as an example. Command barges, they'll keep up with this thing. But the Silent King out of all of those is probably the best option, because you get to reroll all of the hit rolls as well as a +1 to the hit roll itself, so it'd be a 2+ and re-rolling 2. Now in that situation, what I would personally do, you're rolling 2s and re-rolling the 1s there, so anything that is not a 6, you may as well just roll again. You've got the option of rolling it even if it's a miss or a hit with the Pharaoh of Stars aura from the Silent King. It simply says you can just re-roll a hit roll. So anything that isn't a 6, roll it again, try to get those exploding 6s. Now yeah, you may miss some by just doing that, but every time you get a 6, you're going to get 2 more, so it's definitely worth that gamble. Now alternative synergy, you've got the Illumina Zares with the augmentation ability. You can add 1 to the strength, which isn't really going to do much for Annihilation Barges. You can add 1 to the ballistic skill, not too bad. Or add 1 to the toughness, giving it a toughness of 7. Not too bad either. You can use a Triarch Stalker to reroll all hit rolls of a 1 against a particular targeted unit. Or you can use a Canoptic Spider with a Fabrication Claw Array to be healing it D3 wounds a turn. And the final one of note here is a Royal Warden. If you get a Royal Warden close enough, because the Annihilation Barge is a core unit, you can get it to fall back and shoot if you wanted to. Now, sometimes you don't need to do that because vehicles can shoot into combat anyway, but if you wanted to be more selectable with your targets, rather than having to shoot into that combat, yeah, Royal Warden can pull it out and away it goes. But with that one, alternatively, you can just use the Protocol of Conquering Tyrant, Directive 2, to be able to do that, but it will be at a -1 to hit penalty, which you kind of had that anyway in combat with the heavy weapon, so yeah, it kind of makes no odds there. Now before we get onto the summary, 3 stratagems of note for the Annihilation Barge. First one, Curse of the Pharaon. If it is destroyed, instead of rolling to explode, you can automatically explode. So if you're near enemy units, let it go bang and throw out some mortal wounds. Malevolent Arcing to be used on the Tesla weapons. to be throwing out extra mortal wounds that way, or Quantum Deflection, which I quite like. It turns your 5+ invulnerable save with a Quantum Shield to a 4+ invulnerable save. This one will only last till the end of the phase though, don't forget that, it's not an all game thing, just the end of the phase there. So personally I think we've got better options that are anti-infantry within our codex, and some that have got a bit more punch to them as well. It also feels quite wasteful for one of our heavy support options to be an anti-infantry option. When we've got so much of that in the codex, we don't need to be spending our slots when we can instead have the Locust Heavy Destroyers, or even the Locust Destroyers in fact. I think they would probably do a better job. Now they are quite a nice resilient model, especially with the Quantum Shielding ability, and you can score reasonably well for only 120 points too. Now if I was to compare them to other models within the Codex, I'd be thinking of a Ghost Ark perhaps, which is actually 10 points more than this barge, although in my opinion you get a lot more for your points there. The Gorse Flare Arrays, on top of the 14 wounds, not 8. And if you're trying to use it the way I use it with objectives secured, you just want it to be as resilient as possible. But as for the Planet 40k rating today for the Annihilation Barge, I'm going to be going with a 2.5 star.